Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being patient with me. This is going to be part 74 of my story, and I'm going to try to put out at least 4 to 5 stories for you guys today. So by July of 2020, it was a buzz going around the compound. Basically, a woman named Rita Glucksman had been released by way of compassionate release. Not by the BOP, but by her judge. She was a violent criminal. She had decapitated her husband, and that was the reason why she landed herself this lengthy sentence at the FMC Carswell. But under the CARES Act guidance, basically, they were stating that if you were vulnerable or more susceptible to catching COVID, or you had those CDC risk factors, you could be released. And so for one reason or another, even though she was a violent criminal because of what she had done, she was released from prison. Now, I'm not going to judge her because things happen in life. People make mistakes, and yes, they do change. She was very old at the time that she was leaving. However, the buzz was everybody was peed off because they could not understand, why do we have 6 sick people sitting in prison and these judges are denying them the right to go home? And at this time, we had 6 deaths leading into the 7th death at this point. So she's released from prison. But at this time, by August of 2020, 70 inmates have gotten together and they have filed a lawsuit against FMC Carswell. And this is what the ladies were citing. So basically, they were citing systematic failure to implement proper COVID-19 protocol, unjustified denial of medical care, which I can guarantee you was true, no hygiene products and low quality food, I can agree with, and emotional abuse caused by staff. Well within the 8th Amendment, which basically bars against the cruel and unusual punishment. So at my time at FMC Carswell during this pandemic, I wasn't in this lawsuit with these women. I didn't know these women. I would get to know a few of these women the next year. But basically from what they were saying, from what I heard staff saying, and from what myself had endured during the pandemic, from this point, I can agree that this lawsuit should have been valid. FMC Carswell was hit with the 7th death. October swings around. FMC Carswell now loses its 8th victim to COVID, which means this lady escaped prison by death. She had a lengthy sentence. Her name was Tammy Lemire. I think she was sentenced to more than 360 months in federal prison. I'm not too sure of her offense, which really at this time is not important. The important thing was that, she came to prison to do some time and she escaped by death. She succumbed to the COVID pandemic like 7 other people before her. So around this time, I'm eagerly doing everything that I can on this compound to help my time pass. I'm able to use the time that I'm out on the compound working as programming because I'm an essential worker. And so at this time, they have modified operations. So East Trinity is kept completely separate from West Trinity, and this is the way they're allowing movement to take place. So for a couple of hours, at one point of the day, East Trinity is allowed outside of their rooms for fresh air, email, and phone calls. And then they are put back into their rooms, and for the next quarter of the day, West Trinity is let out of their rooms where they are able to get fresh air, access to phones and emails at that time. So I'm patiently waiting for this to blow over in my mind. My camp case manager calls me in and I'm signing my paperwork for CARES Act. I'm so grateful to sit there. I'm signing this paperwork and I'm telling her, how long will I have to wait before I hear something back? And she's just basically telling me, well, it depends on when probation goes out, when they approve you, and if they're going to accept you. So I do this paperwork to come home. I'm waiting to hear something back. At this time, I have 2 other friends who have also signed paperwork to go home. At this point, there's been very few denials. There are some jurisdictions that are accepting you, even though you don't have CDC risk factors, and there are some that are just basically saying, we want to take our vulnerable people in at this time other than people who don't have risk factors. So, I was a little leery at that point. Well, I did my paperwork, and so I'm just waiting to hear that probation is going to come out and what's going to happen. So a couple of weeks later, I'm called back in, and I'm told that I was denied this CARES Act.